God's Grandeur by Gerard Manley Hopkins, 1844 to 1889. The world is charged with the grandeur of God. It will flame out like shining from shook foil. It gathers to a greatness like the ooze of oil crushed. Why do men then not now reck his rod? Generations have trod, have trod, have trod. And all is seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil, and wears man's smudge and shares man's smell. The soil is bare now, nor can foot feel being shod. And for all this, nature is never spent. There lives the dearest freshness deep down things, and through the last lights off the black west went, O morning, at the brown brink eastward springs, because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods with warm breast and with, bright wings. Okay, so this poem is by Gerard Manley Hopkins. He was a Jesuit priest, and his poetry very often talks about the beauty of nature and how man is desecrating the beauty of nature, and how man's love for money is destroying nature. And let's see, what's this poem about? Okay, well, I think the title says it all, The Grandeur of God. Yeah, or this first line, the world is charged with the grandeur of God. Despite the fact that man is destroying his environment, God is looking after us, and God is looking down on us, and man is turning his back on God. And I think here he's making a metaphor of nature and God, because nature is an essential and beautiful part of our world. And man is becoming more and more obsessed with money, and therefore man is becoming more and more fatalistic, and not accepting the things that happen to him are through his own actions, and these are just or reasonable. So, the world is charged with the grandeur of God. This world is full of the wonderfulness of God. It will flame out like shining from shook foil. So I think this is where when you open up a piece of tin foil, you shake it, there are all of this beautiful shiny things, and this is a simile that if you look, you will see the beauty of God everywhere. It gathers to a greatness like the ooze of oil crushed. Okay, so I think maybe here we have a metaphor like maybe perhaps some oil on a surface, and the beautiful colours of oil on water when it's reflected by the light. Why do men then not reck his rod? So why do men not reckon, do not see his rod, God's rod? The rod of God is something that a ruler holds. It's like a stick, and God's rod punishes the evil, evil, but it also cures the evil in people at the same time. Generations have trod, have trod, have trod. So there have been many, many generations, and this is a world where we have had thousands of generations of humans. Yeah, we are part of nature. We have been here for uh, ages, for millennia. And then he says, all is seared with trade. To sear, to burn. So here, this is talking about the fact that nature is being destroyed, or our world is being destroyed by our love of money. And we're not thinking about God's rod. We're not thinking that we are being punished for our love of money. But the fact that, well, just things happen. Then bleared, smeared with toil, and wears man's smudge and shares man's smell. So everything is covered with trade. Notice this: seared, bleared, smeared. We have internal rhyme. So everything is covered with man's work. Yeah, we keep destroying nature and building on it. And a smudge is a dirty mark. So the earth or the soil, the nature, is smeared, is made dirty, is made unclean. Yeah, and the smell of man is all over the earth. Man's smell. The soil is bare now, nor can foot feel being shod. So yeah, and in many places the soil is bare, the earth is bare. Things that should be growing on the earth have been covered in concrete. Yeah, and we're not in touch with nature. Being shod. Well, shod is to have shoes on your feet. But here I think this is a metaphor saying that we are enslaved by this love of money as human beings. And it's like we have shoes made of greed for money on our feet. And now we can't feel the earth beneath our feet because we have these shoes, this desire for money upon us. So after this this thing about how man has turned away from God and has gone to love money and is destroying nature. But then this turns and he suddenly becomes much more positive. And for all this, nature is never spent. But nature, like God, is irrepressible. Yeah? Despite the fact that we are destroying nature, nature grows back. There lives the dearest, freshest, deep down things. So, nature is actually this beautiful, fresh thing, and it's deep down, it's a part of our world. Here, a metaphor, God is part of our world. And nature, it perpetually tries to grow back. And you see this the way you suddenly see a concrete jungle and there's a plant just growing from a crack. And through the last lights off the black west went. Okay, so the black west, this is talking about the end of the day. Yeah? And then morning at the brown brink eastward springs. So here, this is this idea of rebirth, of spring. I like his use of the word spring. So one day finishes, but the next day starts. Yeah, this is rebirth. We have winter, which destroys many plants and many natural things, but then there is always a spring, there is always a rebirth. And this is hopeful for the rebirth of man, and that we will turn away from this consumerist world that we're in, this world looking for money. And then he gives the reason for this, and he says this is because God is looking at us, because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods. So to brood, to think about. So the Holy Ghost, God is bent over the world, looking after it. Yeah, with a warm breast, with I think with mother's milk, the warm breast. The breast is where the baby suckles milk and has bright wings. So God is bent over the world, looking after us, and he's got his wings around us, trying to nurture us and to send us in the right direction. So enough. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon. Bye for now. God's Grandeur by Gerard Manley Hopkins.